I think.
Yeah.
Mid-60s.
She looked really young back
Yeah.
then, though.
Well, I mean, think about that. It's like 30 years ago, babe.
Wow. Wow, that was 30 years?
Yes. Born 1949, so she's about 65, 64.
Is it Paloma or
Paloma.
Paloma Picasso?
Yeah.
She was a nice girl.
I never met her.
She was cool.
Yeah.
Are you ready to continue?
Yes.
Stand by, please.
We'll go to Paloma.
5.
So it was the night of Paloma Picasso's after party for a fragrance that she was introducing. And we all know Paloma Picasso is Pablo Picasso's baby, youngest daughter, so it's a very important night.
Right on.
Okay.
So I have a question. You said something about you had an uncanny experience with the music that night.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean, you had an uncanny experience with the music?
You know, I put on this piece of vinyl. I approached these 3 turntables. It was a Richard Long sound system. And I approached this sound system, and I just knew how to play records one at a time. I didn't know anything about blending music together, but the approach was I took out this piece of vinyl, put it on the record, put it on the turntable, and I put the needle on it, put the arm and the needle on it, and I couldn't figure out how to turn the sound on inside of the booth. I can only figure out, it was already turned on outside of the booth, so you can hear this boom, 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 but it was balanced in a way where you couldn't really hear too much outside noise. You can hear everything going on inside of the booth while the music was playing outside, even though it was a windowless booth. So what I heard was this tss, 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 tss on the vinyl, and I was trying to figure out a way in approaching the music how to blend two of the tracks together, because that's what DJs did. They mix one track into the next track. So I was trying to figure out, oh, how am I going to do this? And all of a sudden I heard this, which was a part of the record. It was the record that was playing outside, you know, on the dance floor, but I couldn't really hear it inside. So it was kind of weird that I heard that, because that's what I was going to blend from each of the, I was going to use that signal to blend. And that's how I mixed music all night. I didn't care what the song was, you know, to a certain degree. I just wanted to listen for the slow it up or speed it up and match them up. So that's what I was listening for. So I did that all night with the and then I found out how to turn the monitors on, so I heard the beat of the music. So it was kind of, it was just natural. It was sort of a natural occurrence when I say uncanny. I connected with the beat. By the end of the night, I also connected with the horns. Also, by the end of the night, I connected with the vocals. So I was blending stories from each track. I was telling a storyline. I was making up storylines, whether they were 4 or 5 sentences, one from this record, the other sentence from the next record. It was sort of weird what was happening. It was this connection that happened, and it's never left me, you know, since I discovered it. It's never left. So for years, I got into the practice of blending music, and that's what I call it. It's just borrowed music that I started blending and telling stories, you know. So that was the intent each time I approached music after that night, was to tell this story. whatever story came to me about love, about joy, about losing a lover, about finding a lover. So I guess that was my point of getting paid all of that money.
I know that you lived and you were raised for a good part of your life in the South Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that you came up during the era of, hip-hop being in the streets. And I know that you witnessed that. I know that you witnessed Flash and Bambaataa, Grand Wizard Theater, all these people. So you had a sort of natural instinct for this kind of music, I'm sure. But when you went up to play for the first time, you talk about knowing or feeling that you had to tell a story. How did you figure that out? How did you figure that out?
From rap, we didn't call it hip hop back in the late 60s or 70s. We didn't refer to rap as hip hop. There was no such thing as hip hop. It was rap. And what rap was telling a story. For the most part, storytelling, before we started putting tracks from like James Brown and all that stuff. When I say we, I don't mean me. I've never did anything like that, but I used to participate in the jams, as we call them. We used to refer to them up in the Bronx, in the Valley, and at the courthouse. And there were storytellers. We showed up to listen to the fiercest and the best storytellers from the neighborhoods battle, whether it was talking about how many girls they had or how fly their overlaps were, or their kangos, how they rocked to the side, or the windbreakers were creased. And that's where I come from, neighborhoods where we had storytellers representing us. Whatever neighborhood you were from, we there were storytellers who repped us at jams. And along with those storytellers, we had people who danced, to those stories sometimes, and in a form of expression. So yeah, growing up in the South Bronx gave me my roots in storytelling in the street.
Right. Cool. Tell me about the first moment, or what was the first time that you actually felt an inspiration to capture this project? 15 minutes. What was the initial idea for this? 15 minutes.
This came out of a resentment originally. I had attended, during the 80s, there were a lot of funerals and memorials that I attended for a lot of the people who I interrelated with in the nightclubs. That was because there was an AIDS crisis that wiped out a large part of that creative community, and a lot of my friends were a part of that creative community. And there was a lot of recklessness that came along with that community as well, a lot of drug use, a lot of drug activity, a lot of drug lifestyle that came along with the music and, the art, or, whatever was being created, Recklessness was a part of that energy. And I attended a lot of memorials and funeral services for people who I thought I knew, And the last memorial I attended was for a friend of mine, someone who I thought I knew, and I found myself sitting across the room from his family, really unable to approach them with any words other than, I got high with your son, or something like that, I couldn't really express to them any real details of my relationship with this person who I had been interrelating with for over 20 years. And I thought it was a sad thing for me to be sitting next to someone regularly, or seeing someone regularly, and not having anything, not knowing more about them than a stranger I'm sitting next to on a train. So I don't know, I was very angry about that. I thought it was a waste of, I had been wasting my time. I thought I had, it would be a great opportunity if I started documenting the people who I had known for a very long time, and especially the people who had left a footprint in my life in some way. And that would be a great way to get to know these people. It would be an excuse to get to know these people by asking them questions about their lives. I figured if I have a camera in my hand, it would help me muster up some courage to ask the questions that I wanted to ask of these people, you know. So I use the camera as a tool to get to know these people who I hadn't really known, you know, much about, but I've been seeing for 20, 25, 30 years on a regular basis. So.
Why now? Why is it important now for this project, 15 minutes?
Well, I believe that the information has always been important. In post-production, I did some research about the 80s, 1980s, and a lot of people who I interrelated with came up, mostly Jean-Michel or Andy Warhol or Keith Haring, or, you know, Cyndi Lauper, Bianca Jagger, Mick Jagger, you know. But I didn't see a lot of people who I didn't see a lot of the people who I didn't know, as well. I didn't see people like Robin Newland or Andre Walker, you know, or Leslie McKaiser or Kenny Scharf. You know, I didn't see a lot of people, you know. I didn't see Patricia Field, you know. I didn't see a lot of people who were involved in that same creative energy as Jean-Michel Basquiat or Keith Haring, Francesco Clemente, Andy Warhol. I didn't see a lot of those people, you know. I didn't see John Sachs. You know, I saw very little Diane Brill. You know, I saw very little information about these people. And we're talking about brilliant people. You know, we're not talking about anyone less than Jean-Michel or Keith. We're talking about on the same platform, you know. So I didn't see much. So that's what it, you know, that's why now. Because somebody has to do it.
So tell me, why is 15 minutes important?
15 minutes is important because it has a lot of information. And we're not talking about little information. It has a lot of information. And that old saying, a little information can go a long ways. Well, this feature documentary has a lot of information, and it'll reach a lot of people. I'm positive that it will have an impact on society as we know it today. And we're hopeful that it'll start some trend in filling gaps in history, whether it's the 1980s, the 1990s, or whenever, you know, information. The exchange of information is very important.
Your trouble began with that other woman in Alaska. She's the same kind of a woman.